Vegas put out some numbers regarding Bryan Harsin. I think they're wrong on this.
Well, Zach, I actually just finished crushing some chicken farm, and I am freaking ready to rock and roll.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts, and we will be talking about some lines that they put out at length today. We are joined by Charlie 5, Auburn message board legend on a Friday, not a Tuesday. Welcome back to the country, my friend. So yesterday, our friends at BetOnline, they put out lines about the first college football coach to be fired in each Power 5 conference. So you're scrolling down to the SEC and right? You just know it's going to be Bryan Harsin with the best odds, just because that's kind of been the nature of everything that's happened this offseason. And it's like, but how much is it going to be by?
Wow.
And it's by a lot.
Minus 1,000. Okay, so let me give you a quick betting if you've never bet before. Okay, so what minus 1,000 means is you bet $1,000 to win $100. In other words, it's about like 1 to 10 odds. It's the opposite. So you're wagering way more money to win way less money. In other words, they feel like it's a very high likelihood. And here's the crazy thing: it's not a guarantee that anybody on this whole list gets fired. So you're not really betting that one out of these 14 guys something will happen to.
Mm-hmm.
You're just betting will it happen to them in general. So there's no guarantee that any of these guys will get fired, but it's so much. Vegas wants so much money, so much juice for you to pick Bryan Harsin because they feel like the odds are exponentially higher than the rest that it could happen, and it'll happen to him first. And that just kind of that number blows my mind.
It does. And I wanted to kind of get a reference point of okay, what do the other leaders or other coaches that have the highest odds to be fired first in each of the other Power 5 conferences? And I'm like, all right, Herm Edwards, Arizona State, how does he even still have a job type thing? And it's he's plus 225, which is 9 to 4 odds. That's not even that crazy.
Yeah.
The closest is Scott Frost,
who's been horrible.
Yeah, minus 120. And it's are they ever going to fire him? I don't know. Neil Brown at West Virginia is also minus 110. But man, just looking at it, it's they do not think Bryan Harsin is going to survive the season.
It's almost 10 times more likely that Bryan Harsin will be fired than Scott Frost at Nebraska. And
that is amazing to think about. And I don't think he gets fired this year, man. I don't think that's going to happen.
The way that I feel like the talent that we have, and the senior leadership that we have, it's hard for me to see how we don't win. If we win less than 7 games, and I said that 6 or 7 games probably the magic number of the floor, maybe the floor, and it's hard for me to see that we don't win at least that. And it's going to be, to me, it's just how do you fire somebody in year 2 that that's what their record. I don't know. It's crazy to me. I mean, and this is just a better example of what we're dealing with. Scott Frost's overall record is 15-29. He's 10-25 in conference, and he's in year 5. Okay, this is his 5th year at Nebraska, and they think that Bryan is 10 times more likely almost for Bryan Harsin to get fired faster than Scott Frost.
And there's a lot of media members that think Nebraska is primed to take a big step this year. And I'm sure that's factoring into the odds some. Not that Vegas cares what the media thinks, but I do think people outside of Auburn have no idea what to think about this team. It's all been very, very lazy analysis. I was talking with somebody on Twitter, a listener of the show yesterday, and I apologize, I don't remember the name, but they were kind of commenting on some of the comments from yesterday's show, which we went over like the biggest concerns that Auburn has going into the season outside of quarterback, right?
Right.
And he was talking about how, like, you know, on SEC Now the night before, the expert that was up there was talking about how, like, it's a foregone conclusion that Zach Calzada is the guy, which if you talk to anybody at Auburn, like, that is not
the case.
What people are saying. I mean, he's consistently been with the third team for like the last week and a half or so. So it's like, I just don't buy that. I think we're at that point where we're past that. And the narrative is all about how, like, Bryan Harsin's lost the team. I mean, I did countless amount of interviews at SEC Media Days where they sit me down on the radio show and they'd be like, dude, what is going on at Auburn? I'm like, a bunch of dudes left. There was this weird power struggle thing, but like, this team's going to be pretty good this year. And it just seems like the narrative outside of Auburn is different than what's happening in Auburn. And I just think this is another byproduct of that. I really, really believe that.
Sure. I want to ask you a question. If you see if you think about this, and I'm so not saying I feel this way, but
sure.
Do you feel like that as we get closer to the season, we get to think we're going to be better? Like you start to convince yourself on things.
It happens every year. It happens every year.
So could that have a little bit? Are we bugging a little bit, and maybe we're getting blinded? I don't know. I don't think I just don't think it's a foregone conclusion I would not bet on that. I wish I could bet. I wish I could take the opposite. I wish I could take the opposite. If there was an either or bet, I wish I could take that bet. And bet the opposite. But
what do you mean bet the opposite? What do you mean by
that? Bet that he's not going to get fired. Like, I wish that was an option. It just seems like you pick which one you think is going to get fired. I wish there was an either or option, and maybe there is. I'll have to get on Bet Online and see.
Sure.
But because if it's that minus 5,000 that he could, or minus 1,000 that he could get fired, it's got to be plus odds the other way that he won't get fired. You know what I mean? So right. I don't know. I just wonder though. I guess I wonder who has the right perspective. We get fired up for football. We start kind of talking ourselves into a lot of things. These guys are sort of unbiased. Again, they do have some lazy opinions, like the opinion that kids can't get better.
Right.
That kind of are what they are. Which I think a lot of people, that has a lot to do with the TJ situation. So sure. I don't know. It's a weird. It's a weird place to be 8 or 9 days, whatever it is, before we kick off. And we got odds coming out that essentially says Vegas is saying take it to the bank almost, that he's going to be the first coach fired in P5 football, which is just,
But when you look at it though, like, Vegas is not in the business of being emotional about decisions and setting odds.
Right.
And so it's like they believe that. Like, that's pretty. When I got that email yesterday, I was reading through those odds. I was pretty blown away by it.
Well, what they're trying to do
is not giving a chance to Harsin at all.
Exactly. They want to just make sure that the money's even, on both sides, and not just get way lopsided and get killed one way or the other. So they felt like that juice is how they could break even, and that's just kind of, I don't know. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
It is crazy. Hey, there is an open practice tomorrow, open to all fans. We'll talk about how you can go, and also, if you do go, what you should be looking for, because it's what we will be looking for. That's coming up in just a moment. But hey, today's show is brought to you by Bet Online. So if these numbers fire you up, or if you're in the anti-Harsin camp and don't think he survives, I don't think that's a good bet. I really don't think so. Minus 1,000, just leave that alone. But hey, Clark Lee, first coach to get fired, plus 500. That's 5-1 odds. Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri, 16-1 odds. Mike Leach is also at 16-1 odds at Mississippi State. I thought that was interesting. Or if you just want to get crazy, Kirby Smart, 500-1 odds, as well as Nick Saban, if you just want to get crazy. But yeah, there's a lot of fun props like this over at Bet Online right now. Be sure to check it out. Get ready before the college football season starts. tomorrow. Crazy stuff. Bet online, it's where the game starts. All right, Charlie 5, Auburn message board legend. Welcome back into the country yet again. I think that's important. I think that's important. Last time we spoke, I thought we'd be saying goodbye, and then the next time you came on, I'd be like, all right, starting quarterback's been named. But that hasn't happened.
It's kind of wild. I did too. There was very little internet service, so I sort of expected when I got back to an airport or whatever, I just get all kind of notifications that a starter had been named. And then I had someone make a really cool point that I hadn't heard before, and I hadn't heard anybody talk about. I want to get your thoughts on it. So I would say that it's not really arguable that over the practices, over the scrimmages, TJ has performed the best. And I would say that I think it's even I think this is probably not really arguable either, is that it hadn't really been that close. It was like the real battle was between 2 and 3. So the question is, this close to game time, it's Mercer. It's not a game we're trying to hide something from a opponent.
Sure.
Why would it not be announced? And the theory was the reason it's not being announced is because they don't want to discourage either Calzada or Ashford in thinking they don't have a chance to win the job, because they either are getting better, but they're not quite there, or they have the best chance to succeed with those two guys should they surpass TJ as it moves forward. I want to get your thoughts on that. Does that make sense? What do you take away from that?
Sure, I think so. And I've seen people comment that on YouTube as well. I think it's an interesting spin on it. And it usually ends with somebody saying that they want Robby Ashford to be the starter, which I get. Right. I totally get that argument. My response to this, Charlie 5, and I think it's a fair point, but my response to this is, if it's close, if TJ Finley gave you a starting quarterback score, it sounds like they're charting the heck out of this, of like a 90, right? If he scored a 90 throughout their fall evaluation process, and Robby Ashford scored an 87 or an 88, something like that, and it was close, I think they'd rather start Robby Ashford because it's easier to explain. And we just talked about the odds of Bryan Harsin, potentially being the first to be let go in the SEC. Obviously, Vegas thinks his job is on the line here. And I think a lot of Auburn folks kind of believe that too. It's a lot more explainable if your offense throws up like a dud performance against Penn State if TJ Finley's not out there. So I could see where that point of view is coming from. I don't understand why they haven't named a starter yet. I said that on Tuesday. I think I said it on Wednesday's show as well. And I'll continue saying it until they announce a starter going into Mercer. But it's not a bad take. That's not a bad question to ask, Charlie 5.
And I've heard this too. And again, I trust. I feel like you look at those odds. Harsin knows how important winning games is, and he knows how important that Penn State game is as well. So I do trust that he's doing whatever he can, what he thinks is the best to make sure that they have the best shot against Penn State. And we're not privy to a lot of information. Like, they may already have named the star. I feel like it may have leaked by now, but the team may already know. Who knows? But I've heard this a lot too. Let's play all of them. And maybe even the coaches have said things like this where they'll all play the first 2 weeks, and we'll kind of see where things are going into Penn State. And if that's the case, that makes me really nervous, because I feel like you got 2 perfect tune-up games for a starting quarterback to get locked in, get a feel for the speed of the game a little bit, and it kind of picks up a little bit exponentially as it hits Penn State. I don't know that I really want to see a lot of quarterbacks unless it's blowout situations. Like, I definitely don't want to see rotating series or things like that. I've never seen that work. I've never seen that be a positive thing. So I hope that's not the case.
I'm there with you, right? And this is something that I talked about with Mike G earlier in the week, where it's like, okay, all of these fans are saying this, where like the quarterback battle is going to go throughout the weeks of Mercer next week and the following week leading into San Jose State. And then the actual starter will be named against Penn State. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Whatever. That may be true. But what does that actually look like? Does it look like switching guys out? Does it look like TJ plays the first half, or whoever is the starter plays the first half? And then if you're up by 3 or 4 scores, then you make the change there and you keep the other starters in. I don't really think that gives you the information that you really need to make an informed decision if the game's already over. So like, I don't fully know what that looks like, but people are saying it, right? And look, we're all ready for football to start. Like there's all these fan narratives that have emerged. There's theories that have started on this show. Like we all are desperate for football to start and for the Auburn Tigers to take the field at Jordan Hare Stadium and hopefully just pummel Mercer in less than 2 weeks. But the whole speculation of like the quarterback battle ongoing, I'm cool with that. And that may be an internal practice thing, but just using Mercer like there's some high school team that you're just going to destroy and just assume that we're going to be able to just have our way with them no matter what quarterback is in. I don't think that helps the argument of, okay, we'll just go in there and TJ goes for 2 drives and then Robby goes for 2 drives. Because if they're terrible anyway, like what information are you going to get from that at all? So like I'm just not fully sold on this fan narrative that's emerged of how they're going to handle quarterbacks for the first 2 weeks of the season.
I agree. I don't think there's any program in the country that needs football to start faster than Auburn football from a fan base perspective. If a starter's not named like over the weekend or like the beginning of next week, which essentially would be, I guess, game week, I'm going to be really nervous. I don't want to see Auburn go through another deal where it's like we go into the first game. I can't remember. I think it was a quarterback battle where it was like Chris Todd or Cody Burns, and going into the first game.
It literally went into the first game.
They went into the first game, and then it went into the first drive because they said "or" on the TV screen, like on the announcement screen. Like
yeah, they announced one of them first, and everybody went crazy, and then they're like "or," then they named the other one. It was like
which to me was the lamest thing. I don't know why they ever thought that was a good idea, but I don't know that. I'm going to be nervous that it's hard not to believe that that's not going to be another possible scenario. We don't really know who we want to be the quarterback, or no guy has really just super separated themselves. I really hope over the weekend or beginning of next week for game week, we just go ahead. We got this video playing, social media, whatever, and we just announce it and roll with it.
Yeah, let's talk about what makes sense from a timing standpoint. And I think it may involve tomorrow's open practice. Let's spend just a second on that, and then we'll talk about what you need to be looking for at the open practice tomorrow, right here on Locked On Auburn. Want to tell you quickly about how to join the Locked On Auburn Discord. It is free. There will be a ton of discussion tomorrow about the open practice. A lot of good nuggets and information in there. It's free. All you have to do is click the link in the episode description down below, or if you're listening on audio, it's in the show notes. Just click on the link that is right after join the Discord. Auburn Met Sports legend Charlie 5 joining us. When makes sense to make the announcement at this point? Could you, I'm just throwing out hypotheticals. I'm not saying it's any of these things. I'm just throwing out ideas. Do you do it in front of everybody at the open practice? Like, that'd be fun. Harsin is talking to the media immediately after the open practice. Does that make sense? Or does it when he does his typical, game week routine, media availability? Does he do it then? Or is it just a random social media post that comes from the official football Twitter account at some point between now and next Saturday?
Right. I think that as it has gone on as long as it has, I think the beginning of next week, game week, hey, it's game week. Boom, here's your start. Here's QB1. I think that to me makes the most sense on timing, unless in my opinion, if it goes past that, you don't really know who you want. It hasn't been decided yet. Like they don't really know
Right.
who it's going to be, and we could possibly have this rotating quarterback thing week 1, which is going to make me really, really nervous.
I may throw up if that happens. I may just vomit.
Oh yeah, and so I think, and I'm just basing it off of just nothing. This is just, game week. There's going to be some type of Auburn football game week post. It's game week, game prep, whatever. And then I think maybe hopefully you have a QB1 announcement sometime, after that, during that, maybe with that. Maybe that's the same. Maybe you do it at the same time. I don't really see a benefit of announcing it at, the practice on Saturday, because the fan interaction stuff happens, I think, before practice. So like if you announce it before then, it may make it exciting. Hey, I get to go meet the starting quarterback. But it doesn't seem like that's going to happen either. So I think Sunday, isn't there like a Tuesday? Isn't Tuesday a big press conference day?
Yeah.
Could Tuesday be some? Could Tuesday possibly be something? That would be fun.
Possibly.
Charlie Tuesday.
Possibly.
Yeah,
it would be. It would be. Speaking of, Charlie Tuesdays are going to be recorded live Monday afternoons, 3:00 at Barbaritos every week, starting this Monday. So be sure to come down and check us out. Enjoy great food. That'll be a lot of fun. That'll be a lot
of guac and some football talk.
Charlie 5, football, and guac. What else do you want? Can't think of anything. All right, looking at some of the things that I'm going to be looking for at practice tomorrow. The first thing is Nick Brahms going to be out there?
Right.
I'm assuming he will not be. Harsin said yesterday that there's still a lot of questions up in the air about Brahms playing. And then he also added the caveat that he's out there coaching people up, which is great. So he's with the team. It's just, can he play? So that's the first thing. Tate Johnson, scrappy. Maybe he can figure something out.
I want to see the size of Tate Johnson. There's a lot of people that talk about how small he is to be. What's that?
Tiny Tate
to be an SEC center. I've met him in person. He's not an overly tall guy. He's seems fairly well built, but he does sort of seem like a Joe Cope. If you remember Joe Cope, which he was actually he was a very good center, size-ish type center, smaller than we're used to. But I want to see how he, put Tate Johnson in front of Jason Jones. I'd love to see that matchup, and let's see. We'll really get an idea to see how good this kid could be.
Right.
Size thing. I really want to see what he looks like in pads.
I mean, he looks big, but then he just stands next to like Cam Stutz, and it's like, oh, I don't know.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, fans will be able to get to see that tomorrow. The next thing I'm looking at is which 3 wide receivers are out there with the starters. I mean, they've almost exclusively run stuff out of like 3 wide receiver sets.
Right.
So take that for what it's worth. I think it'll be interesting to see if Coy Moore is out there. And if he is he with the 1s or with the 2s?
Camden Brown. Where's he?
Camden Brown will be behind Shedrick Jackson, I believe. I'm pretty confident in that.
Sure. Boy, did you see it? Take a quick side note. Shirtless football player picks get me fired up, and Camden Brown is absolutely jacked. Holy cow. He is not an normal 18-year-old. He is the definition of a hulking super team, and that is Camden Brown. He is an absolute massive child, and I mean, that kid's going to be great. I think he's going to be absolutely phenomenal. Shout out to the Discord guys who have hyped him up since he got here. He looks the part for sure.
I was wrong on him. If he goes out and shows out this year, I was super wrong, and I will absolutely own that. I will happily eat that crow. And then the last thing I'm looking at, who's the safety next to Zion Puckett? I think it's going to be Caden Bridges. I'd actually be a little surprised if it wasn't Caden Bridges, but that is those are the 3 main things I'm looking at, because it's going to be walkthrough stuff. It's not going to be anything super intricate. So that's
super telling. Well, there's not going to be exactly.
It's going to be the same stuff we've seen all fall camp. but it'll be more fun for the fans in attendance because they haven't been able to see that. So that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, and then I think it's always fun to see the quarterbacks throw. In whatever capacity it could be, it's fun to watch the quarterbacks throw. So, just to get a sort of a glimpse into what we've been hearing. Again, you're not going to see a ton, but anytime you get to see the quarterbacks throw, get to see it live, it's fun. It's fun to watch. So I'm with you. It's gonna be fun. Was it 2:00? Is that right? The fan stuff starts at 12.
Yep.
Practice starts at 2. Hopefully I hope to be there. So, I don't know if you're going to plan on being there, but
I'll be there. I'm going to do it more as a fan type thing than media. So if you're there, please reach out to me on the Discord. We can all kind of sit together. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So yeah, just reach out to us on the Locked On Auburn Discord or on Twitter or whatever. Come say hello. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So, do you want to tell folks what all's going on? I know you're wearing a vacation shirt.
Yeah.
Your top button is still buttoned. What is up with that?
If you're going to commit to a lifestyle, you got to commit to it. No matter if it's vacation, no matter what, you go ahead, you button it all the way up and let it ride. And this is my Hawaiian shirt. Somebody made a joke. Hey, I wonder if he had his Hawaiian shirt with the top button. But
I think it was memes. I think Auburn memes said that.
Yeah, in the Discord. Well, you know what? Here it is. Top button, all the way up, all the time. You're never going to miss it.
I am so blessed that I get to know you. I just want to add that. How can people find you, hear you, all that good stuff?
Absolutely. Find me on Twitter, _Charlie_5. In the Locked On Auburn Discord every single day. Auburn Live, the corner message board, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday on the Dad Bod Golf Pod. I like your hat, by the way.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, spent yesterday in Atlanta, the PGA Tour Championship. A lot of fun. All right. There will be a show tomorrow. It will be a recruiting show with John Garcia, a special Saturday show. And then join us Sunday for the morning after. Daryl Dapprich will join me to recap everything that happened in the open practice on Saturday. All right here on Locked On Auburn.